Holy shoot, what the freaking frick? This is OPSEAT strategy. Bro, I know. Start the match. Man, send me this clip from back in the day, dude.
Look at this dude.
I mean, I look good though, man.
No.
Wait. Oh god. Physical stuff, Pizzuto.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the OPSEAT video podcast. I'm your host, Drew Pejors, Twitch partner and social media manager for OPSEAT. We created this podcast to introduce you to successful gamers who have used various strategies to build personal brands and make a profit with them. Please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you enjoy your live streams or your podcasts. And today, we are joined by Twitch partner and streamer TheFuncannon. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
We're really happy to have you on, and truly we appreciate you joining us today. If you could, please tell us your name and what most people might recognize you for.
I go by TheFuncannon on Twitch here, and I am known for speedrunning Borderlands games primarily. I've done plenty of other FPS runs as well over the years, but by far what people will have heard of me from is from Borderlands speedrunning, specifically Borderlands 2.
Yeah, it seems like you've dumped, how many hundreds of hours into Borderlands 2, and there's
Thousands, really.
Thousands. There we go. It's good to clarify that thousands of hours in Borderlands 2, and we're kind of curious. How did you first start playing video games, or when did you start?
Since I was a very young child, I've been playing video games. I had friends even as young as like 5, 6, 7 that were getting me to play their NES, their Pokemon games, NES games. I've pretty much just been a gamer my whole life at this point.
There you go. And what kind of brought you into the world of speedrunning and just playing all these games just a little bit faster every time?
So originally, I'd kind of known about speedrunning. I'd heard of it before, but I didn't really look into it until around college a couple years back. And I just kind of one day had done a playthrough of Portal 2 and just was like, you know what, I'm going to try beating it as fast as I can. I didn't know any of the strategies. I didn't know anything that was going on at the time. This was probably in like 2010 or 2011, so that was even before speedrunning was really like mainstream. And kind of played it until I beat it, and it took me like 2.5 hours or something like that. And from there, I didn't really do much else with it until just being on Twitch in general kind of led me eventually to find other speedrun streams of games that I knew of or stuff like that at the time, and that eventually in 2013 led me to Professor Broman's stream, who was speedrunning Borderlands 2, and that was a big inspiration for me in starting that game because, well, I loved the game at the time, and it looked really cool because it was really broken and had a bunch of really cool stuff.
That is true. Borderlands has been like kind of like one of the cult classics for a lot of content creators, even gamers, just basically over the last, what would you say, about 10 years?
Easily, yeah.
And kind of, we're always curious about like kind of what keeps you going with it. I mean, and specifically with Portal, like, on your first like speed run and things like that, did you feel like your times and everything were comparable to what was out at that point, just by trying to beat it with your fastest time?
No, what was funny is at the time, I remember trying to Google what the fastest time was at the time, and I couldn't actually find anything because this was before leaderboard sites were even super popular. So it was either controlled by the community itself back then, where they just have a spreadsheet of everybody's fastest times, and if you weren't in the community, you didn't really know about it, or things like that. So I had no idea that it was even a competitive thing, really, when I first did a run. But from there, the community has grown in and of itself a huge amount because of things like games done quick marathons and other things like that. And it's really been cool to watch the speedrunning community in general explode in the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, like especially, I mean, recently coming from TwitchCon and seeing games done quick down on the stage and everything, that was actually my first time seeing it basically being produced live. Have you attended most of those games done quick events, or is it kind of something you enjoy watching?
I've been since SGDQ 2015. I've been to every one that wasn't held at a TwitchCon.
That's
So,
incredible.
yeah.
Do you have like a favorite game that you enjoy watching other speedrunners do outside of Borderlands?
Um, I watch a good bit of Zelda runs just because Zelda games were a lot of my childhood. Um, so things like Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, I really enjoy those games. Um, then another kind of niche game that I enjoy watching a lot is Pikmin, because that was another game that was just huge for me as a kid. And um, I believe the fastest time beats the game in 6 days in that game.
6 days?
And yeah, that's pretty much doing every area just in one day and getting every single part. So it's nuts.
I would have never assumed that Pikmin had that much content to, just bounce around and
Yeah.
get everything done.
Yeah.
Wow. And we also noticed that you have a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel. We were kind of curious why you prefer streaming to a live audience compared to editing recordings for YouTube.
For me, it all comes down just to the interactions you get with your viewers. Um, there's something kind of not personal about YouTube in a lot of ways, where you're just kind of putting something out there and then you just kind of read the responses as they come. And you still get that with Twitch, but in general, it's a lot more fun to have someone to talk to while you're doing a speed run for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time.
That is definitely true. And then, so everybody kind of, they have their aha moment when you realize you can keep playing games instead of, getting a traditional job. Was there ever like a specific turning point where you realized you could do this as much as you do?
Not a crazy amount. The biggest situation that would have been possible for me, the biggest similar situation that you'd be talking about would be back in, see, I guess it would have been, 2015. There were a couple other Borderlands content creators, Admiral Baru, Smikers, and Maminus, that we all did just this really long, big marathon stream where we tried to beat as many playthroughs of all the Borderlands games at the time, which that was 8 different playthroughs.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest points where people kind of, I guess, realized how much time and effort I had put into the games, because the other 3 people were a lot less experienced with speedrunning in general, especially with games like Borderlands 1 or pre-sequel. And that was easily one of my highest viewer records for a long time during that stream. So that was kind of the biggest payoff moment, I think, for me in terms of streaming in general.
That's actually incredible, and the fact that you guys were all able to, orchestrate that together as separate content creators, but come together for that many playthroughs. And I know that a lot of people listening, becoming a Twitch partner is one of their biggest goals. So how did you manage to, snag the coveted check mark, and how has it impacted your stream?
And really, it was a snowball effect from that stream that I'm talking about, actually. Because the other streamers were much larger than I was at that time. Since I got so much traffic, so many people started sticking around a lot more. People that were more interested in the speedrunning aspects, because that was definitely a period in the game's history where I was kind of the dominant person on top of everything, where I was holding just about every record for pretty much every category. It's
Oh,
not
wow.
nearly as much anymore, but there's some crazy people at this point that put a lot more time these days into it.
Even more
But,
than a couple thousand hours.
Yeah, and just real life has definitely gotten in the way for me a lot more. But that really kind of snowballed, and I kept a much higher viewer number from there. And I think I ended up with the partner button within like 3 or 4 months of that stream.
That's incredible. And congratulations on that. I know that was, probably back in, 2015. And then I know that a lot of people are creating content on Twitch these days. There's community members, there's affiliates, there's partners, there's Twitch ambassadors, et cetera, et cetera. Would you say that a lot of your growth and everything like that could be achieved without partnership as well?
Definitely. I mean, you look at so many of just affiliate people at this point that pull in the 200 plus sub count, and sometimes Twitch doesn't even think that they're partner ready, even at where they're almost able to sustain themselves. And so it's definitely not a requirement at this point, just it definitely helps you.
Definitely. And with your journey, spanning years and years and kind of playing, games within the Borderlands directory or Wolfenstein, etc. How would you say you've retained or kept your audience, mainly playing similar games?
Well, for me personally, I have a hard time focusing on the same thing for too long. So I end up kind of trying to be as creative as possible with either just my speedruns or anything else like that. I typically try to do some type of longer, more creative marathon type speedrun, once every month or two. And that really keeps things fresh for me because one, I have to think up something new and different in the first place. And then that also attracts a bunch more people to come back and recheck me out and be like, oh, hey, he's doing this. Why? That's going to take him like 20 plus hours. What is he doing? So it's a way to keep myself entertained, and it's another way to keep everybody else watching entertained as well.
Definitely. It's very enjoyable watching these challenges, and recently you've done one with Borderlands 3 that has performed extremely well. I mean, what is one thing that always keeps you coming back to the series, instead of, recently you talked about watching Legend of Zelda and games like that. Why Borderlands 3 specifically, and what always keeps you coming back?
A lot of the randomness, really. Because of that randomness just across the series as a whole, you end up not really being able to get fully optimized runs as easily. So you end up having to work on your consistency a lot more often to improve, and just getting the same type of runs every single time. And once you get that luck that you're kind of looking for, then everything falls into place and you actually get a good time that way. And then just the amount of content in the games in general, the gunplay is phenomenal, and it's got multiple playthroughs, so you can do New Game Plus runs, you can do just from level 1 runs, you can do both at the same time, you can do just about anything you really put your mind to. And just that creative liberty that the series has given me over time means that I'm not getting bored of it, and it means that I can present it in a way that everyone else isn't going to get bored of watching it either.
I like that. I like the ability to present it in a way that keeps both parties entertained. I know that we've talked with a couple of speedrunners in the past, and would you say that that is the number one way to kind of combat, burnout, which is kind of popular within the speedrunning community?
At least for me, yes. I've kind of noticed my ability to stick my nose to the grindstone, as it were, is a little less than a couple other speedrunners. Like, I see plenty of speedrunners, like, I don't know, plenty of other people that just stick to one category of one game, and they'll do that for years and years and years until they have the time that they want. I've had a hard time actually doing that. I tend to jump between two. I'll get like a really good time in one category, switch to another one for a week or two, switch back, etc., and that keeps me entertained. And if other people have the ability to focus on other things like that. It could definitely help them, in my opinion, but obviously it's going to be different for everybody.
Certainly. And I mean, we do see you jumping around different categories and things like that, even different games, such as Wolfenstein Youngblood. You've done collaborations with other speedrunners and other prominent members of the community. Do you feel like you're able to work through game sequences faster with other great minds, or is it more just for fun?
Really kind of mix of both. Co-op runs just offer a completely different experience to single player runs in that you're not only relying on yourself, and so sometimes you'll make a mistake and you'll be the one holding everyone up, and you have to, deal with that in certain ways. But other times it's someone else, and you have to either be patient enough to actually wait for them to get through it in their own way or help them out. And it's just a way to have a good time with your friends, but at the same time also do a arguably harder speedrun, since, well, you're relying on 2 or 3 or 4 people to do everything perfectly over a 1 to 2 hour sequence versus just yourself.
Definitely. It does add like an extremely, different variable to maintaining that consistency of the RNG, as a lot of people might call it for certain runs. And, I mean, with streaming and, speedrunning and everything like that, do you ever let chat distract you, where you might miss something really important, or maybe they help you in a way if they're like saying you missed something?
Yeah, it's definitely happened, all of those things in all of those cases. I can't think of any specific examples, but there's definitely been times where, well, I can think of one kind of funny thing. I was doing some marathon stream, and it had hit 20 hours by that point, and I was extremely exhausted. And it was in Borderlands 2 in one of the DLCs, and I opened a chest, and a pearlescent came out, which, if you don't know, is a very rare thing, especially from just a chest. And in my tired state, I just don't even see it and just walk away from it. And it's like, hey, you missed this really rare thing. How did you miss that? I was like, no, I didn't. What are you talking about? And they posted the clip, and there it was, just staring at me in the face, and I didn't even notice.
Twitch chat is pretty good at that, at being the collaborative criticism, as sometimes we might need, or just a nice general reminder.
Yeah, and sometimes they try to troll you, and it works, and
Yep.
then it's not as good.
Definitely. And I mean, you've been doing this for years. I mean, when did you actually start streaming?
My first stream was in September of 2013.
Oh wow, you've been
First
at it
stream
for
ever.
about 6 years.
Yeah,
Actually, recently is your 6-year anniversary, so congratulations.
it was, yeah. It's definitely been kind of off and on through that time. Like, the first couple streams I streamed for a couple months, and then it just kind of died out because, it was early for me and just wasn't ready for it, and I had work and school and all that stuff. But then it was the January the next year where I restarted and took it a lot more seriously for a couple more months, and it's kind of been back and forth for quite a while at this point.
Well, there you go. And it seems like, sticking to it, even after that year and starting back again in January, that you've been able to maintain like a really solid foothold on, the speedrunning community, and probably a lot of people from the community look up to you, which is incredible. And then through those years, I'm sure you've realized that like subs, bits, and donations are a huge source of income for Twitch streamers. But what other ways do you find are important to monetize your content outside of the stream, either through sponsorships, brand deals, etc.?
Well, I mean, obviously OPSEAT is a sponsor for me at this point, and it's definitely paid out in its way. Just it all seems to be just kind of accumulation of everything. You're not gonna get one stream of revenue in a job like this that's just gonna suddenly carry you, unless you're one of the really, really big streamers, and that's it's not most of us. So really, it's just trying to balance everything as much as possible. Get a sponsorship deal here and there, and that's gonna pad everything a little bit. Then, maybe you run a special subathon or something one month, and hey, that means you're a little more comfortable for the next month.
Definitely.
It's just you kind of have to focus on all of the different things and create multiple different revenue streams, and that's really going to be the thing that helps you the most.
And that's extremely important for anybody who's either trying to, either stay relevant within, the Twitch community, because a lot of it is just being able to make sure that you're able to hit the live button. Because, but I mean, realistically, there are a lot of things that go into remaining successful, and it doesn't have to be about how much you make or anything. But you've remained successful just as a broadcaster and entertainer for a while. What do you think is one of the traits that you attribute most to your success? Is it your knowledge base of the games, or is it personality?
Probably really a mix of that. I think in general, that lack of focus or that I was kind of talking about for myself is kind of helped me in certain ways, because it means that I'm forcing myself to be creative, and it means that you come back to my stream and it's not always going to be the same thing every single time. So there's less burnout in terms of viewership as well, I guess you could say. So the fact that I try and have fun, I'm not really trying to, I don't know, take it too seriously. It's just me having fun playing video games on the internet, and
There you
hopefully
go.
other people enjoy it.
And I mean, did you ever see yourself doing this kind of thing? I mean, you talked about going to school and working at the same time as kind of starting everything up. Was it ever like a goal when you first started, just to, see if you could make a living doing this?
Definitely vaguely. It was one of those things in the back of my mind the entire time, and it was definitely a big driving factor in putting as many hours into it as I did. But if you had told me back in high school that I was going to be making money off of playing video games on the internet, no way. Absolutely no way.
And then, I mean, realistically, kind of out of curiosity, if you had gone through, let's say if you're in high school and somebody told you that you were going to do this and everything happened the same way, would you do it all over? Would you go through the 6
Probably,
years?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely been one of the biggest factors in my life that's got me where I am. I wouldn't have the same girlfriend. I wouldn't be in the same state probably. It's completely changed my life in a direction that I'm definitely super happy with.
That's actually incredible. I mean, a lot of people talk about Twitch being now kind of lifestyle if you're a broadcaster, especially like a full-time broadcaster. And I mean, being, that it's changed your life and everything like that. I mean, what's your current, opinion on the state of streaming as a profession? Is it something people should pursue, or is it something people should really look at doing as a hobby first?
I would definitely say if you're starting out, absolutely start as a hobby. Don't plan on it being a money stream, because there's a very big possibility that will be, but if you're suddenly, if you're letting your actual work and income slide, well, it's not really going to be getting you much of anywhere. So definitely make sure you're comfortable in your life first. If you really want to stream, like, it's definitely awesome. It's definitely cool, but it's a lot harder than it looks. It's definitely a lot more stressful than it looks too. The constant pressure to have new content always coming out and new ideas and all this, it can wear down on you. So it's definitely something you should be doing for fun first, and then if it becomes something that can become a business option for you, well, definitely don't say no. But
Yeah.
you know,
And I mean, what would be some advice to give to somebody who might be, starting out?
I'd probably say just be consistent as much as possible. Be live at the same time just about every day that you're going to be live in a week. Try to be doing at least something similar to what your audience knows you for, more or less. And just make sure you're having fun with it. Because if you go down a path and start being invested in a certain game series or certain game type, and you suddenly realize, well, maybe I don't like this so much. Well, it's okay to switch as well. It's definitely gonna make your numbers take a hit. Definitely gonna make your chat be a little bit quieter than normal, but it's definitely worth it in the long run to do something you enjoy versus something that is gonna make you more successful, quote unquote, at least in the short term.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, one of the biggest things that I've gotten from being able to talk to a lot of different, partners or successful people from the platform is that if you can't entertain yourself, how are you supposed to entertain, countless
Exactly.
other people?
Exactly.
And I mean, over the years, there are bound to be things that don't necessarily go the way that we had hoped. Is there, I mean, if you don't mind sharing, is there any point during your 6 years of streaming where things didn't really go the way you wanted to? Like, do you have like a most memorable failure or learning experience you'd like to share?
I mean, failure.
Just anything that like maybe we didn't expect and that really was really prominent in being able to like either help you get through a different direction, etc.
Not really. Mainly in the fact that I've stuck to the same series for so long, and I've been okay with sticking to the same series for so long. Um, I guess some of my biggest regrets would be not sticking with a couple other games that I've run in the past. Things like Doom 2016. I wish I had more time to do that game because it's been a lot of fun, and it was really good for my channel when I was actively doing it. Or um, plenty of other things like that have been where it's like I wish I had gone more down into a certain direction where I'd been like scared of doing more content that wasn't Borderlands.
Yeah,
So
and I think what
I guess
ifs. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I guess just things in general like that. I definitely don't have that many regrets because I've definitely taken the opinion of if I'm not having fun with it, why do it?
Exactly, and it seems like you've had a amazingly strong head on your shoulders this entire time, um, and especially to be able to stick with what you've been doing for so long. You're doing something right, and it's awesome. Are you going to be looking to playing Doom Eternal at all?
Absolutely. It,
The shotgun hook
what
is something I'm really excited about.
it looks so good, and it's supposedly a bigger game too, so even better. Hopefully the speedrun tricks are a little bit different because there's one speedrun trick for the 2016 version where you need 200 FPS. So you really need a really good computer to
Oh wow! So
put
you're
it in.
limited by hardware to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Some of the tricks that I've seen with speedrunning are like basically getting your computer to slow down and lag a little bit. I've not heard one where you actually have to have a computer fast enough to process extra things.
Yeah. If that game runs at a high enough frame rate, there's a certain glitch with climbing animations on certain rails or other climbable things that'll just kind of launch you. And the higher your frame rate, the faster you go.
Oh
So
wow,
it creates crazy, crazy skips. So
that's actually
definitely
amazing.
definitely recommended watch if you haven't seen a run game.
I'm definitely gonna have to take a look at that. And then, are you planning on going to any events where people can come and meet you? I know you haven't gone to some of the GDQs at TwitchCon, but are there any other events that you're really excited for in the near future?
My next planned one is going to be AGDQ 2020, which is in Orlando. Um, the pretty much the summer is my easiest time to get um, to do any events and stuff like that. So most recently, I was at Guardian Con in terms of actual cons where people could have come up to me and meet me, but nothing planned for the rest of this year at least.
There you go. I mean, there's not too much longer left in the year, and
No.
but I mean, I hope you had a fantastic time at Guardian Con, and then I hope this next event in Orlando does really, really well. I love watching them.
Yeah.
It's something I always keep on my TV, and just like throughout the entire event, it's just my favorite kind of like background noise, and to just
Mhm.
hear the crowd cheering.
It,
It's incredible. Or clapping.
it's definitely one of the things I'm the most proud of being a part of,
Yeah.
and especially since I tend to help out with the production there as well, doing things like running the OBS or setting up the consoles and stuff like that.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm sure there are a lot of different things that people might have questions about later, anything like that. But where would people go to learn more about what you do?
I guess the easiest place to find any of the Borderlands speedruns really would be speedrun.com. Let me check actually what the full Borderlands directory link is.
And then we'll make sure
It's
to include that link as well.
Speedrun.com/Borderlands is the kind of series page. So it's the place that you can find any different speedruns that I've done or speedruns that other people in the Borderlands community have done. And there's definitely a lot of really cool runs, especially in BL2. The co-op runs have some speed glitches. BL3 already has speed glitches. BL1 is probably the least popular, but it's still got really cool runs. I can definitely recommend both myself and my own content and anyone else that's in the community. It's really a at-home family type feel there for pretty much everybody.
Definitely. That community is always just surprisingly kind, and just everything they do from charity fundraisers to just making sure people feel welcome when you're at these kind of events are really cool. And just with us, all of us at OPSEAT, we're kind of curious. It doesn't have to be your OPSEAT, but what's your favorite peripheral that you feel like you wouldn't be able to do what you do without it?
Definitely my mouse because it's the Logitech G502.
Mm-hmm. That's a great mouse. I'm also using that.
By far my favorite mouse that I've ever had, and for the majority of the Borderlands speedruns, really, the unlockable scroll wheel is kind of necessary for us because we bind fire to scroll in BL2, and then it's like jump to scroll in pre-sequel for a bunch of different tech type things, just because it's the high input rate and all that stuff. So definitely without a good mouse, you're not going to be able to play very well. Exactly.
And I mean, even just watching your most recent Borderlands 3 playthrough, I'm assuming something was bound to the scroll wheel with the way that you slide through the game. It kind of
actually no, that's just me pressing shift.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's just mechanical prowess from the user right there. Well done.
Whatever's the fastest form of movement, that's what you just got to get used to it and do it.
Exactly. Well, honestly, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the OPSEAT video podcast. Truly, I hope everything goes well and that you can continue to set some of the highest times that we'll probably ever see on games. So again, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.